time to go straight to the national dailies and we'll talk about the stories that are making the rounds of the national dailies. And we'll start from Nigeria's newspaper of records, this day newspaper that says here, quick notice to headers on constitutional presidency cautions Akeredolu. There's another story that says that OPS second lockdown will inhibit economic recovery. FG alleges conspiracy against COVID-19 vaccines. I'd like to get your take on this. And IEA cuts oil demand focus as new lockdown tempers recovery. Barkindo, renewables not replacing fossil fuels in coming decades. I'm sure this is a reaction to maybe the story of Total making the rounds about investing in fossil fuel. We'll go to the Daily Times this morning. FG unveils plan to lift 20 million out of poverty. There's still some stories here. Pope names Bishop Kuka, member of Human Rights Peace Commission. Anambra elections, INEC slates Anambra elections. Guba polls for November 6th. Ambassadorial posting, federal government releases posting of ambassadors to Nigerian missions. We'll go straight to the Daily Independence this morning that says, foreign bandits invading Nigeria, wreaking havoc in Oyo. INEC to hold Anambra governorship polls on November 6. GSM operators collect 47.8 million needs ahead of NCC deadline. FG raises 2.636 trillion from the capital market in 2020. And 3 die, 6 burnt in Ogutanka explosion. That's story making the rounds out of the Daily Independent this morning. Quickly, the New Telegraph says, Lagos to treat malaria-like symptoms like COVID-19. Sanwo-Olu use 350 oxygen cylinders daily. Patients use 350 oxygen cylinders daily. 24,000 students yet to return to schools after the lockdown. And SIM registration for 7.8 million Nigerians submit needs to telcos. 1.3.4 million lines to be linked before February 9 deadline. Fried food raise risk of heart attack. Fried food raise risk of heart attack. I'm sure for the health conscious people, that's sinking. On the Vanguard this morning, presidency Akeredolu at war. The writer says Akeredolu can't tell headers to leave Ondo. Presidency, my ultimatum stands, Ondo governor. And there's a pictorial here of rehearsals going on at the capital. Can Kuka Center attack Murik over call on peace committee to sack Bishop Kuka? FG once again is giving in to orders for registration. Insecurity, Senate won't fight Buhari to please anyone. Governor Bello rejects COVID-19 vaccine, says it is meant to kill. Just excuse myself there, so sorry about that. COVID-19 vaccines meant to kill us. That's what Kogi governor is saying. There. FG considers vaccines outside Pfizer, BioNTech, and laments high storage costs. Ruins from Lagos tanker explosion at Kuto. That's a pictorial here on the front page of the Daily Sun. Why we open schools despite coronavirus spike? That's what Sanwo-Olu is saying here. Still on the front page, NEEM registration continues till February 9. That's what the NCC is saying. And Anambra fixes election for November 6. Primary is slated for June, July. That's what the Daily Sun is saying. The Nation newspaper says here, just top of the masthead, 160.2 million seems yet to be linked with NEEM. Amoteku recovers 8 sacks of weapons from bandits. Ex-CPC chief makes case for power shifts to south. Oyo to pay Oshu 8 billion on Lautech. Government spent 1.85 trillion on food import during border closure. These are some stories on the top page of the Nation newspaper. On the Punch this morning, INEC planning to make NEEM compulsory for voters' registration. Commission plans hitch-free registration amid COVID-19 pandemic. NEEM SIM linkage to assist in fishing out criminals, says federal government. Crowd overwhelmed NEEM centers as NEEM holders rise to 47.8 million. And Abiodun bans truck from flyovers as 3 dies in tanker explosion. That's a reaction to the tanker explosion, the very terrible tanker explosion that happened in Ogun State yesterday. Gunmen kidnapped Lagos Varsity Deputy VC Nasarawa, demands 20 million naira. And Akeredolu's order, Ondo tackles presidency villa defense headsman. News Direct this morning, consider malaria-like symptoms at COVID-19, Sanwo-Olu Says 24,000 students here to report to public schools. Demand for oxygen jumps from 70 to 350 cylinders per day. Only a bastard son of Yoruba land will not support Tinubu's ambition. That's what Oluwofiwo is saying this morning. And presidency frowns as Ondo State's quick notice to headsmen urge dialogue. The Daily Trust this morning is saying 12.3 million subscribers await SIM linkage within NIN as 47.8 million phone users cleared. FG urged to limit mobile lines possession to 2. Traders count losses after Sokoto market inferno. A lot of fires lately. Akeredolu's quit order to headsmen inflammatory. That's the stories on the top page of the National Daily this morning. Dr. Bati, you got some stories you want to particularly help on?
The story of this day, organized private sector saying that any lockdown will affect economic recovery if you look at the fragile nature of the Nigerian economy. And organized private sector has been very consistent in this regard. Even at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in the year 2020 and with government lockdowns, organized private sector was consistently talking about the need to strike a balance between lives and livelihood. And at the end of the day, we had the relaxation of the lockdown, only for us to find ourselves in a situation now where there is a second wave and a spike in the infection rates, further complicated by the refusal of the average Nigerian to respect science and respect the protocols and guidelines that have been outlined. So where does that leave government? Yes, organized private sector is right. They say it will lead to more job losses. It would affect the unemployment situation in the country. The country is effectively in another recession. If you look at the economic indicators, headline inflation at 15.7%, food inflation at 19.7%, core inflation at over 13%. If you reduce this sectorally, then of course you can't say that the economy is doing very well. Even the economic sustainability program that the federal government has talked about, there are challenges in terms of how to get the economy going. So organized private sector in that this day story is talking about a properly articulated risk management framework for COVID-19. Now, that sounds like a fancy phrase, properly articulated risk management strategy. If all of the details that we have before us are anything to go by, we haven't seen much progress, either in terms of the people's response or responsibility on the part of the state governments. Is it not in this same Nigeria that we have seen a state governor? He's been quoted again in the papers today. I hope he didn't repeat the offense.
He repeated
yesterday.
The offense.
I hope he did not. That particular governor has not continued to mouth ignorance and mislead the people. After we pointed out the depth of his ignorance yesterday. And then 3, of course, you find that with regard to the procurement of vaccines and also the vaccination process, government is just experimenting as it goes along. So we find ourselves in a very dire situation. And it just points out, for me, the takeaway from that front page story is the urgency of the need for fresh thinking, for deeper thinking, for more rigor in addressing the COVID-19 challenge in the country. The other issue of interest, which you pointed out repeatedly, is this alignment of national identification numbers, NIN, with SIM cards. We're told that about 47.8 million persons have already obtained their NIN numbers, but the alignment has not been done for over 12.3 million persons. Now, if that is the situation, it means that the process is not going smoothly enough. Now, today is supposed to be a deadline. January 9 for persons who already had NIN, and February 9, January 19 rather, and then February 9 for persons who are still trying to get their national identification numbers. Now, getting that national identification numbers is a nightmare, and there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of anxiety, and many Nigerians are saying that even that February 9 deadline is not good enough, that government will need to extend it further. And then you brought up the issue of INEC, saying now your NIN number will be your PVC.
Yeah.
The argument is that the PVC is supposed to be for just 10 years. After 10 years, you are supposed to use your NIN number. Increasingly, we see government agencies, immigration, Federal Road Safety Commission, passport office, all of them saying you must have a national identification number. I think in principle, Nigerians do not disagree with it. But getting that national identification number should not be through a process whereby government puts a gun to the people's heads and subject them to undue exposure to COVID-19 infection. What is important is to work out a framework that makes it easy for the people over time to get those numbers and to align them appropriately in the various agencies of government. If that is not the case, then the people will continue to be anxious. And there must be clarity about what happens after February 9. I think the consensus out there, even among the licensed telecom operators organization of Nigeria, the group called Alton, is that, look, there is need for an extension. And there is need in that regard for clarity, because the Identity Management Commission and the Ministry of Communication, nobody seems to be sure, from the minister to the spokespersons, and they need to offer some kind of clarity so that the panic and anxiety and the rush that we have seen, disappears. And in any case, they say agents have been named in Abuja. Some points have been identified, but even that has not made much difference. We're looking at over 165 million people who need to register their SIM cards, align it with the name. Now, we've done 47.8. That's still a lot more to worry about.
And the process, goodness me, I don't think Nigeria should go through this nightmare again. The process needs much to be desired. And I think this is time for them to just come out and say we need help.
Absolutely.
It's not hard for the government to just come out, or for a government agency to come out and say we need help, we need advice on this, and they take counsel. It's not a hard thing.